Would you play with my heart? Why do you play with my votes? Say we've been together. Y'all ever know Boys in the Men? End of the road. Said it'll never die. Democracy, you supposed to love me, just never say goodnight. It's the end of the road, people. Holding you tight, something new, girl, and you break down and cry. Democrats, Republicans, oh no more. I'd rather be dead. Although you go, you know song. Although we gone to the end of the road, and some people just don't wanna let go. The world is ending, it's natural to come to me. Something about belong to you. But we gotta come to the end of the road, people. They can't own every damn thing. Oh, they riffing, boy. I love Boys to Men. I gotta find the lyrics. You've never been there before. It's only your first election. Oh, I got something to say today. We're gonna talk about the fish gods today. Sorry I'm late. Sometimes you got to be late. Got slave. Got the riffing going. We should be happy to, but we did not read Plato. We did not realize that democracy's my rule is gangster violence and using the police state to force other people because we narcissists. This time it's gonna come to an end, but the fish god's gonna bring them bags, and we gonna come to the end of the road, and some people just don't wanna let go. But it's natural for you to rule yourself. You don't need government. Good morning, everybody. I lost my damn mind. Yes, I have. I've lost my damn mind. What is the deep part? Who's I forgot this Mike, I think. This is the deep brother Mike. Yeah. I love you. And I tried to give you a Bill of Rights and Constitution. I was here for you. I tried to love you, but you didn't seem to understand that I'm just feudalism. I've always been the king. You don't own a damn thing. It's my house. It's my house from coast to coast. I will abuse you as I need to, and every damn thing in this house belongs to me. You don't actually own anything. First of all, you think that you own gold, you think you own your land, you don't even own that car. I stole that car. I stole the minerals from Africa and the Middle East, and I brought it here and sold it to you for a good price. And everything in the NDAA and eminent domain and the whole model of government means I own everything. You do not own anything. Okay, first of all, let's get that clear. Slaves don't own anything. Okay, slaves are owned. And you ain't even a slave. It's unnatural for you to belong to anybody. All right. Although we've gone to the end of the road, and some people just can't let go. You need to tell the left to stop fighting with the right, cause in the new normal we gonna need moonshine. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna have to do that one again. Not right now. I do this all the time, by the way. I don't know if y'all know this. I do this all the time. I make up lyrics. I sing to myself all the time. It sounds a hell of a lot better in the shower though. Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing this morning? Welcome to the end of the world. Got a lot of few things I need to talk about. But I'm gonna tell you how this comes about. I gotta tell y'all something. Hang on, let me bring in the comments. Good morning, everybody. It's the end of the road. The world is coming to an end. It's a good thing. It is a fantastic thing. But don't be upset. Because the bad gods, what's his name? Dagon, he gonna come back. He gonna bring that bag. Because the Egyptians talked about him. The Aztecs and the Mayans and the Bible, and the Pope got that fish head hat thing that he wears around. The bad guys gonna come back. They're gonna restart it. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. They always restart every civilization to see people coming back. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know how I'm gonna put this together. It's just all in my head. Let me go find it. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? Everybody, don't be upset about the end of the road. End of the road. It's a good thing to end this road. This is a dirty, foul, funky, abusive, raggedy, bumpy road. And somebody need to dig this road up. End of the road. Boys to men. Love it, love it, love it. Boys to men. Boy, them boys y'all can't sing. We are at the end of the road, and it's a fantastic thing. It is a you know what? It's gonna start with this. Somebody sent me. No, somebody sent this to me. I stole it. I stole this from Beaufort. It says me explaining to my parents why I'm not having kids, because this curse needs to end with me. And I failed. I made some little criminals just like me. Hang on. I saw that on Beaufort's page. I had to send it to my kids this morning. Like, yeah, I done failed. Yeah, I made some little criminals. Yep, they think for themselves. They not gonna fit in this world. They not gonna fit in at all. But that's okay. They're not supposed to. You're not supposed to raise kids to fit in. You're not criminal that is. You're not funky, foul, and slavery like it is to raise children to fit in. Children ain't supposed to fit into your world. Your world is always foul to them. Raise your children to be free children. That's where that post came from this morning, because I stole that from Beaufort. Raise your children to be free. Do not raise them to fit in. No, not in psychopathic pedophile world. No. Not in abuse everybody who's got the weak and the meek world. No. Raise your children to not fit in, but also tell them, raise them free. Raise them free, but also teach them no generation will ever be free. No generation will ever be free. We're going to walk it forward. We're going to constantly walk this nonsense forward. But you got to raise your kids to be free. Do not raise them to fit in. Do not raise them to be racist, religion, nations, any of that nonsense that the kings give you, that they indoctrinate you into bigotry. I even had to tell my brother that this morning. I keep putting them on blast. I had to tell both of them, because I use them the same way I use y'all. I use them the same. I try to. But I can't use them as much as I can use y'all, because their minds are a little too closed, a little too narrow road. So I told my brother this morning. I said, I can't use your CPU power, man. I can't use it all that often. You're a smart dude, and I love to use smart people to like process thoughts. And I said, I can't use you that often, because he's in that cult. He believes that the Bible is the word of God. I said, no, it's words. And they talking about God, but that's the king's king done changed that. The Pope done fixed it, and the Vatican hiding a lot of scriptures that should have been in there. And I just said, I can't really use your brain power that much. I can't use your CPU for processing, because everything I give you to process, you put it through a belief system. You put it through indoctrination, and that's not science. That's science. That's not the scientific method. You can't go into a conversation like, okay, every road has to lead back to Rome. No, not every road should lead to Rome. Sometimes we need to make a civilization that doesn't end up in a massive police state empire controlling people who don't even own any damn thing. I got in trouble this morning. Sister Ann came for me. She's like, your posters are dark. And I don't think my post was dark this morning. I don't think it was a dark post. What was I saying? No, nothing. I said, good morning, Americans. Good morning, everybody. Just the FYI, I remind you, y'all don't own a damn thing. You're going to get up in the government sheet. You got the government pillow you slept on. Got government music playing while you sleep. And you're going to get out there and make some more money for that government so you can buy things. And when they need it, they're going to take it back from you, because you don't own a damn thing. You are owned. You don't own nothing. Slaves don't own property. You own a plantation. And she thought that was kind of dark. I was like, and that's not dark. I don't think it's dark. We're in a great apocalypse, right? Apocalypse means revealing. So we're in a great revealing. We're revealing what's true. Revealing what's true is never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing. It's always good information. Go on that first date and that man start cussing at you, make that evil eye. You see how he treats the waitress, then you know this ain't the one. This ain't the one. Good information. Wasted your time, good information. Not even a waste of your time. It was good to go sit down there. I did that once. I met somebody a long time ago in Baltimore. And I don't never go to Baltimore no more. I don't even do that. Not now. Oh no, not with that dude that died when he did to that city. No, Baltimore is a little San Francisco. Was it San Francisco or LA? Which one got the poo map? Which show you where all the human piles of poo at? I don't go to Baltimore. But anyway, I met somebody in Baltimore once, and the first time I met the person, everything I said, she hit me in the arm. Everything I said, it was weird. It was just, I don't know, it may be nothing wrong with that. Maybe she touchy-feely, maybe they beat each other up or something. Every time I made a joke, I said, you somebody hit me in the arm. And I was like, hey. I was just like, yeah, this is good information. I came all the way down here to Baltimore to find out that you're gonna hit me in my arm. Every sentence that come out my mouth, something is wrong here. I don't know what is wrong. I don't really care what's wrong. I love you. You are a sister in the world, this, that, and other, but I don't think I want that in my life. I'm not even sure. Information is always good information. So I posted the thing and I just kind of explained to her, don't focus on my post. Don't focus on my post. And I had to toot my own horn. Yeah, that's right. Damn it, I tooted my horn. I tooted my horn. I said, it's two things I know. No, it's three. There's some things that I'm pretty damn good at. I'm gonna be honest with you, flat out. Listen, I am a great systems engineer. I'm a great systems engineer, which is why I had to get the hell out the industry. I'm making these criminals too much money on Wall Street. I had to get out of the global business circles. To embrace a life of poverty. I rethink that every night. I sit there, you know what, maybe I should just be a Babylonian again. That's one thing I'm good at, systems engineer. I'm pretty damn good at taking words and stitching them together in confusing sentences, posting them on the internet in ways that piss people off, make them annoyed at certain frequencies, where they will post genius comments after that. So I said, Sister Ann, check this out. Don't focus so much on what I post. Don't focus on what I post. Because I just try to stir the pot. That's all I'm doing. I'm stirring the Kool-Aid. And I said, 62% of what I post, maybe 80-some% of what I post, I actually believe. The rest, I'm just trying to stir the pot. You got to stir the Kool-Aid. You got to stir it up. Which, I'm sorry, I'm having a little too much fun. I have to take you somewhere. I have to show you something this morning. Oh, that's something beautiful. Something beautiful. And this is where I started off. Good morning, everybody. Let's get past this real quick. It was this that led me to Egypt, and I was thinking about the man bags. I'm gonna have to go find me an icon of the man bags real quick. The fish gods, civilization restarting. And it took me to this brother, Eric Cline, PhD. Have y'all ever heard of Eric Cline, PhD? I had to add his book to the read list. I found it fascinating. He was talking about the sea people and a collapse of civilization. Put the whole thing there so I can get the name in it. There we go. And the name of his book is 1711 BC. That's it. Name of the book right there. He starts talking about the collapse of civilization because people were blaming the sea people, which is why I was talking about the fish gods. And I'm not sure if they're unrelated. I don't even know if they're related, but I'm probably, knowing me, I'm going to relate them together before we all done. So check this out.
My topic today, I'm going to talk about 1177 BC. So let me take you away from rainy Bethesda and take you back more than 3,000 years in the past. Where hopefully it's a little warmer and sunnier. This is the late Bronze Age. This is the period that is, I would say, nearest and dearest to my heart. If I could be reincarnated backwards, I would choose to live back then. I'm sure I would not live more than about 48 hours, but it'd be a good 48 hours. So we're in the period from 1700 till about 1200 BC here, 500 years. And you can see from this map, the different colored areas are the different civilizations that were around at that point. Basically, I call them for shorthand the G8 of the ancient world, because there's actually 9, but never mind. So it's close. So we've got Minoans and Mycenaeans over in Greece. We've got Hittites up in Turkey. We've got the Egyptians, which are coming up here into Canaan. Mitanni here, Assyrians and Babylonians, Cypriots here. These are the great powers of the late Bronze Age. They're all flourishing 3,500 years ago, give or take. And this is actually a period that you know about. You might not have thought you knew about it, but you do. Because in this time period, we've got Hatshepsut, the world's first female pharaoh. Familiar to anybody? You've all heard of her, right? Tutmosis III, her stepson, Amenhotep III. How about Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh? Right? Okay, so he's in this period as well. I'm venturing to guess that most of you have heard of King Tut. Would I be correct about that? Yes, okay, so that's this period as well. Ramses II, pharaoh of the Exodus, if it took place, that's another lecture. Ramses III is going to be our boy today. He's going to be the hero of this particular period. This is also the time when we get the Battle of Kadesh between the Egyptians and the Hittites, 1279. Little thing called the Trojan War. Heard of that? That's at this time period. In fact, this is the context for the Trojan War. I do think it happened. Again, that's a topic for another lecture. My wife does not think it happened. We argue about this at home. Others argue over mortgage payments. We argue about the Trojan War. So, and then again, this is the period of the Exodus, probably about 1250 BC, if it took place. So you see, you already know this period, even if you thought that you did not. Now, one thing that is special about this period is that it is globalized for its time period. That is, it's not globalized like we are today, but from Italy on the west to Iraq and India on the east, they are all in connection with each other. They're all in contact. From Turkey in the north down to Egypt in the south, we get one of these social network diagrams. That's what my wife does, social network analysis. So this is courtesy of her. You know what is it, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon with all the movies? Yeah, same thing here, except that this is what's called a small world, which means there are no more than 3 leaps between any 2 pairs or any pair of people. So if the Mycenaeans did not know the Assyrians, they knew the Hittites who knew the Assyrians, and you could get there within 1 or 2 leaps. Now, the reason this is important is that there's been very few times in history where we've had such a situation. Us today is one, them back then is another. So this is why I would say that looking at what happened to these guys, even though it was more than 3,200 years ago, is actually relevant to today, because looking at what happened to them might have implications for us today as well. And what happened? Well, they collapsed. Just after 1200 BC, everything that had been going very nicely for several centuries by this point comes to a crashing halt on either side of 1200 BC. Right, everybody that I just mentioned goes down. We get a dark age that lasts for between 150 and 300 years, and basically civilization has to reboot in this area. Okay? So, this was a huge loss to the world. It is comparable to the collapse of the Roman Empire, which happened 1,500 years later. The main problem is we're not really sure what caused it. So that's what I want to talk about mostly today, are the possible explanations for what caused that collapse, and then see if maybe we should start going, yeah, all right. So it used to be that it was a very simple explanation. When I was in graduate school, when I was an undergraduate, and for decades before me, the simple solution was that the Sea Peoples had done it. When in doubt, the Sea Peoples. So who are the Sea Peoples? Well, this is the Egyptian name for them. The Egyptians, actually, it's our name for them. We call them the Sea Peoples. The Egyptians talk about a number of different groups coming through the Eastern Mediterranean and winding up in Egypt on the shores, attacking them, not once but twice over a 30-year period. They come in 1207 and they come in 1177. And yes, 1177 is where I get the title of the book. It is the second time that Egypt is invaded by these people. Now, the problem is, in fact, that the dates change. The Egyptologists keep changing the chronology. So a better way to put it is the 5th year of Merneptah and the 8th year of Ramses III, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Right? On their inscriptions, they say, in my 5th year, this happened. and in the 8th year this happened. That is why when the book came out 2 years ago, I got a nice note from a senior colleague in New York City. And he sent me an email, and all he said is, "Congrats on the book. The title should have been 1186 BC.
So now you see why I'm interested in this already, hopefully. All civilizations collapse. All civilizations come to an end. All of them. Okay? So it's the end of the road, and it always comes to an end. We never learn the lessons, we keep repeating them. And this is why I think his book is probably fantastic. Now, what I love in listening to him explain this, and I'm not going to put the whole lecture, obviously, some people have lives. Some people still got to get out there and Babylonian. If we don't learn the lessons from the past, we will continue to repeat them. So if you're paying attention to how he's talking, he's kind of explaining the different, let me hold the time slot. The different civilizations. We've been here before. We've been to an empire before. Like one of the arguments we used to make when I was a capitalist, and we're all still capitalists, but I believe more in capitalism than any of the other isms, the other funky isms that the king gives you, but he owns every damn thing. Oh, well, when you got global trade, nobody wants to fight. You know, there are less wars when you're trading with your neighbors and blah, 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 blah. I have a completely different opinion nowadays, like that. And a lot of that I got from Ron Paul, which kind of makes some sense, kind of, not really. Makes sense, not really. Why? Because when it comes down to robbing and stealing and looting, we will rob, steal, and loot, and we think we're going to get the resources from people we trade with anyway. So we think we're going to get that stuff anyway. So global trade doesn't stop war, doesn't even slow war. What global trade does, I'm trying to think about it in terms of this civilization, or this time in civilization when it collapsed in 1177, not 2020. And I'm okay, let me do this. I'm gonna walk through the thought in my head the same way before I even applied to that. So we're collapsing now because, well, we're weak now and we're being collapsed. We can't stand up for ourselves because we're weak. And the reason why we're weak is we don't mine our own resources. We don't grow our own food. We don't own any land. We're completely unsustainable, and we've been made that way. Most people don't even know that their house is over water. They buy water with chemicals in it. And most townships ban you from even drilling a well to get your own fresh, clean, filtered water beneath the sand water level. We've been made weak. We've been made dependents. How you break a people is you take away the things that make them strong. You take away the things that they need. You take away those bare necessities. And then how do you break a nation? You take away its sustainability, right? You take away its ability to provide for itself. You make it dependent on global trade. See, back then they weren't really dependent on global trade. They enjoyed global trade, but they were strong people. They were still independent. They could stand up and do what they need to. We cannot. When you have global trade, you're dependent on everybody else for these resources. And who does that give the power to? If the nations don't really have any power, because the UK doesn't make anything, America doesn't make anything, you're dependent on all the other nations who are also subject to the Iron Bank. They're subject to the central bankers. And so having global civilizations that are largely not independent, but dependent on the globe, it means those who control the nations and the continents, those who control the banks and printing of the money, the fiat currencies, they decide. That's how you break a nation. And so now I'm trying to apply it to 1177. The only way that civilization is collapsed is it has to have a weak point. It's got to have a central point of failure. And I'm seeing this as the central point of failure. When you can stand on your own, you're fine. When you're dependent, you're weak. And I'm not really applying it to 1177. But I'm thinking about, maybe it will, as we think through it. Back then, there were multiple things. If you watch the lecture, there were multiple things that they thought collapsed the civilization. They thought it was the sea people, which is interesting. All right. invasions, right? People came out of the sea and invaded. You know, we've got all that going on today. Global trade got that going on today, but it wasn't the sea people. You went through the archaeology, and every time they found a destroyed site from that time period, they say, oh, yep, it was the sea people. The sea people did it. They thought it was drought, thought it was climate change. He went through a bunch of other things. Some thought it was disease. Like, no, didn't find any record of disease at that time. There's never been a global pandemic without government help. So we talked about that one. Civilizations always collapse because we keep rebuilding them weak. Because the few have to keep the civilization weak to maintain power. That's where I'm going with that. We are collapsing today, and we have to learn the lesson. Hang on, let me close this up real quick. We have to learn the lesson, and this is where this came. Is that Beaufont, bastard? And this is where this thought process is coming from, because you sent me to Egypt. I was thinking about this, and I was like, you know, this fits along with what we teach. You got to make your kids better than you. You got to make your kids smarter than you. You got to make your kids upgrades of you. You got to give your kids a sense of freedom so they will push the freedom train forward, not pull it back. Don't teach them to fit in. Do not teach them to be a Democrat. Don't teach them to be an American. Don't teach them to be no Republican. Don't teach them to be any of those things. And it's not just because I want moonshine. I do want moonshine. That was my post from earlier. I think that the deep left in my country need to start fighting with the deep right, because everybody know where the moonshine come from. And when we tell government we want to build a new, unsustainable, new normal civilization full of weak people, we're going to tell them where to put that new normal. And when we tell them where to do that, we're going to need moonshine. It's going to get rough after that. Boy, it's going to be tight teaching everybody how to grow food again. Take care of yourself. Get your own land. We tell them, nah, we're not going to let you loot everybody with the digital dollar. We're not going to do this. We're going to build a sustainable civilization. We're going to need the moonshine. So y'all need to stop fighting with the people out of the Appalachian Mountains. Poor people unite. Poor people unite. We need to be drunk in those days. Zombies might be walking. Still a lot of people going to get that cure. But you got to teach the kids to be more free. You got to raise them in freedom, even though we know we're slaves. Like I was telling Ann, like, it is dark that we're slaves, but it's not dark that we know it. It's light that we know it. Now that we know it, what do we do about it? You raise your children to be free. And know that no generation will ever be free. We will never see freedom. Something will always control us, but every generation should be freer-ish. Freer-ish. We should gain more freedom and more rights every single generation if we're going the right direction. These elites, these powerful few, these families, these lords, these kings, these rulers of empires should get less and less rights. We should have more and more things that we own, own nothing. And I don't really believe in ownership, but by own, I mean that this is being utilized for a person, a small community, a neighborhood, a person. And when it's done, it's recycled. Right? That's what I'm talking about. Not the small level, the neighborhood, the family, the person. They don't own any damn thing. That is all owned by the kings. But I don't think that's dark. I think it's great that we know that we've been trapped in this cycle. And then the fish guys got to come and recycle. You know who the fish guys are? Are they called the fish guys? The bad guys. You know, the bags, when we looked at ancient civilizations and how all the different cultures documented the man bags. Hang on. Let me do a search for man. I do a search for man bags, I get the wrong thing. Hold on. The man bag gods that come to restart civilization. Man bags. If you talk to a modern archaeologist, they would say, yeah, well, those are seeds in a bag. But they appear all over ancient civilization. I think we did a whole little discussion talk thingish on this before. Man bags, right? And this is either Mayan or Aztec. Where is this one? I forgot where. The Sumerians documented them. These bags have shown up. These fish gods, these people who come, and I think I can do fish gods. So you do man bags, a bunch of other stuff comes up. Sometimes they're represented in fish costumes, right? Perhaps because they come from the sea. Perhaps I can show you something. Hang on. Actually, there's a lot in my mind, and I'm trying to piece it all together, and I'm trying to put it out right here. So we don't want to do that. We want to go here. Check this out. This might help to stitch it together. I ran into this video. This might help to stitch it together a little bit.
I'm back again. I'm going to try to make these short.
Brother, not you. I like you. Fine with you, Rick Worth, but no, not you. This one right here. Now this blew me away, and this part why I was fussing with my brother this morning, because I need to pick his brain. I can pick his brain on like scriptures and stuff. I can go to people at Cuss Church. This is interesting. So it's funny to me, and this is why I love scripture, and I love reading the Bible, and I love reading ancient texts, because you reread and reread and reread, and you keep seeing something different. All right. I grew up in the church, like I told you before. Read the Bible through I don't know how many times. Studied it. Studied the history of it, where it came from. The Vulgate, Septuagint, blah, 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 blah. Not going to get into it. Some people think it's the word of God. I personally don't. I think there are words, and there were people who documented what they called gods. Some of that might be a big G God, but most of it was probably angels and demons and aliens. All right, check this out. Or other cultures. Maybe it's Atlanteans. Maybe it's people in the hollow earth. Maybe, read this real. Thou shalt not make any graven images, right? Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above. And that's all I remember. Heavens above, right? You're not supposed to draw no pictures of God. You're not supposed to make no pictures before the dude took his nephew and said that this is Jesus. Y'all, I forgot his name. The Pope family, and that became Jesus for everybody. But let it go further. Or that is in the earth beneath. Wait a minute, why is there anything under the earth? Why, what you, whoa. So apparently God is in heaven. You're not supposed to make it. I feel like I'm in Cuss Church, but I'm not cussing. Anyway, that's another. I haven't done scripture on this thing in a long time. So what's beneath the earth that's so powerful like a God that you can't make any graven images of it? Or that in the water. Or that in the water under the earth, right? Not in the water, but in the water under the earth. And what did we just discover a few years ago? That the biggest oceans on this planet are actually in the earth, not on the earth. What the hell is in there? Then it takes you into hollow earth theory. It takes you into, well, I won't call it theory. Let's call it history. Because the ancient India, Native Americans, Aborigines, they all had stories of people who live within the earth, including Africa. I found that scripture to be interesting. I have to reprocess that. Want to run that by my brother, but the problem is anytime I go to people who have a belief system, and before you have a discussion with them, their belief system already has to equal true before you can talk. You understand what I'm saying when I say that? Right? Don't ever let your belief system drive your discussion. Otherwise, you are just a servant of the king, right? You are just a servant of the empire. Never let your indoctrination at birth dictate what can be true. Because then everything that you do, everything that you think of, every discussion that you have, everything that you stitch together will be stitched in the framework of the king and what the king gave you, what the king told you, how the king raised you. You're black, you're white, you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're this. This is the word of God. Like, look at things from a neutral, blank slate perspective. Don't try to put things in the box that white people bad, orange people bad, black people bad, immigrant people bad. Have an open mind. That's the only way you'll come about to any logic and common sense. Logic and common sense might be the primer of our society. The one thing that we can agree on is, well, one, we don't know, and two, a scientific type method to work through to solve a problem or to figure out what's true. So I can't send it to him because he's going to put that in his perspective, his belief system. You should be able to look at the facts and the data, the history, logic, common sense, how things work together today, how nature works, and then stitch together what might be true, not the other way around. And then that will form what you start to believe or what you think. Sumerians, that's the Sumerian tablets right there. These fish gods with the bags, and they keep coming to restart civilization. Graham Hancock did some great studies on this. Why does civilization have to keep being restarted? Because we're some daggone fools. And then he gets into the Pope. This is the Pope's hat right here, the fish gods. Why does the Pope have a hat that looks like a fish's mouth? Stitching together for anybody or just me? That's time for Jesus. Fish. Because he was a fisherman. Or because the gods came from the waters. Ooh, psychology. Did y'all see that? I didn't even think of that. The ribbons. Oh my God, hang on, go back. Hold on, Gerard, hold on. Brainwashing everywhere. That's interesting. And ribbons don't even do that. Ribbons don't even do that. Support the troops. Remember those who gave their lives for freedom. And so it's interesting, the power of symbolism in the symbol, right? Your brain is stitching together that symbol, and it's quietly forming relationships in your subconscious mind, but not your conscious mind. Quiet programming. Oh, I didn't think about yin and yang. Oh, sell products. Starbucks. The fish gods, always coming back to restart civilization. We can't seem to teach the next generation that they're not slaves to gods or slaves to kings or slaves to government, which is the same damn thing when it comes to kings. They own everything from coast to coast, sea to shining sea. Everything the king surveys belongs to him. Even Simba. Everything the king sees, it owns. Like government. Same thing. Why would anybody vote for that? It's interesting. I like this. This is pagan symbol. I'm gonna stop there because it's gonna. There's something coming that's gonna start an argument. I don't want to show that. I'm trying to have a discussion. Do you see why my mind is like resonating here? We're in this global collapse. We've been here before. We've done this before. We keep getting restarted. Hey, I'm gonna go in the comments real quick. Yeah. Vishnu. Ooh, well, the comment just went up. Hey, I can go back to it. Great day, beautiful. Oh, good morning, Susan. Good morning, Adam. Let's make it with love. Everything we gotta do with love, we gotta do with love, Adam, right? Like, question doesn't matter. The answer always has to be love. Always has to be. Lots of laughter. My children definitely don't fit in. That's good, Diane. You should not make children fit in. Hang on, let me close this up. Anybody came in late. You should absolutely, children should not fit in. You know, your mind should work in ways that make you think like this. This is how my mind works, Diane. I just sit there and think like, yeah, it can't be two of me. It can't be two of me. I like to stir up trouble. Well, I like to stir up solutions, but you got to stir up trouble to have a solution because people don't like change. But when you think about it, it's like, yeah, this curse has got to end with me. Towards the end of your life. That's why you make your kids a little bit better. So yeah, kids are supposedly they're not supposed to fit in. They're supposed to be new gods. They're supposed to be new and neutral on this planet. The planet's supposed to change for them. Systems are supposed to change for them. They are supposed to push for more freedom because how beautiful and big they are can't fit in the old system that was constructed for their parents. But then teach them that freedom, the opposite of freedom might be slavery. The opposite of freedom is slavery. Teach them that it's systematic. It is a system that embraces slavery. It's never people. The slaver it doesn't matter, right? The slaver is agnostic to systematic slavery. And we're always going to be under the boot of systematic slavery, but every generation we can move it forward towards more freedom. Kids who don't fit in will fight for freedom. Kids who fit in will get out there and vote, consent, do, and keep the status quo. Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, Deanna. Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Verna, Jeannie. Damn isms. That's right, Jeannie. All the isms gotta go. Don't give your kid an ism. Make your kid a rebel to change the isms, to fix the isms, to move the isms forward. Good morning, Marianne. Good morning, Christine. Every road should lead to heaven. It should. It should a proverbial heaven, right? Every road should lead to a better situation than the situation we're in, a better situation than what kids are born in. Good morning, Donna Savannah Rose. Good morning, Elizabeth. Deanna. Okay, good morning, everybody. Everybody saying good morning, everybody. That's great. Jonathan, it is dark. It's also 100% accurate. Witness in the, you see, Jonathan, okay, that was my point from earlier. Like, it doesn't matter if it's dark. If it's dark, that's even more of a reason for us to say it, right? Because like the whole hashtag, save our children stuff, right? If it's dark, and that's even more reason to say it. If it's light, but we're in dark times, it's useless to say because you don't have nothing to do if it's light. If it's a unicorn latte, which is actually really dark because it's gonna kill grandma. It's full of carcinogens and sugar and cream, and pus and blood and all that stuff. But the darker it is, the more important it is to be said. And nowadays, people don't want to look at it. It's like hate speech, right? Jonathan, they don't want to see hate speech. I don't want to see it. I don't want it around me. Political correctness, right? But if we don't see the dark, we can't fix the dark. We don't know the problems there. Problems don't go away just because you don't see them. Problems grow when you don't see them. Think about the elite, the 1%, 13 families, the 200 whatever families that run every damn thing. You pretend they don't exist, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. What if the white folk and the black folk keep fighting each other over the skin color? Silly, ignorant stuff that don't mean nothing. The powerful governments get more powerful. The centralized governments gain more power. The central banks and corporations. As long as you're all fighting things that don't mean anything and you're hiding from what the root truth is, you increase the strength of what oppresses you, right? All right. So yeah, the darker the better. Good morning, Deborah. Observation is a good thing. It is a great thing, Christine. It is probably everything. We have to observe and speak. Good morning, Julia. Good morning. Hello, what's up? Didn't catch up in a while cotton picking. I know, Ivan, you got to pick that cotton. Absolutely. That's exactly how it works. You only get to pick the guys. The only way that you have a little bit of freedom is you got to pick your cotton, but we have to use that to move things forward into a new world. Pick your cotton for today and use the profits of your cotton to build a better world. And always accept the reality that we don't actually have to be slaves. I ran into a good brother yesterday. Actually, I ran into two good brothers yesterday. A lot more people waking up than you think, people. A whole lot more people waking up than you think. I met someone yesterday and he just hit me, hey, you ever read the Creature from Jekyll Island? I was just like, man, can I kiss you? No, I didn't say that. That's not my thing. I kissed men before. My pastor used to kiss everybody. No, it's just not my thing. But I was just like, wow, I've never met someone on the street who read the Creature from Jekyll Island, read a dark book that explained an ugly, evil truth that we got to fix. And I met someone else who was just like, yeah, not gonna wear that mask. Not gonna happen. He was a good brother. And, he had two kids. His kids, they were like, nope, never been vaccinated, not gonna wear the mask. Nowhere do I go. He goes into every store, drives his wife crazy because he refuses to wear a mask. And those are the people we need to be. Every generation has to be a little more fair. So I met a lot of good people, but one of them was an IT guy. The Creature from Jekyll Island guy. And we were talking about it, and like the three things that change the world that mostly are just undiscussed. And I mentioned it before. One was the free energy, and we know they got that, the EMG, electromagnetic device that's flying around, the UFO and that gun camera that they admit is real. Two, I think they have a patent for that too. On Google, you can look up the patent, the TR3B. Two, learning software. Right. Because now you can teach software to learn like the human brain. And three was 3D printers. At that point, there should be no slave on this planet. At that point, there should be no child forced into a career. At that point, we can stop doing the things, stop feeding the economies and the slavery that always ends in collapse. Let's go back here. Always ends in collapse. But I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. I don't do the whole lecture.
may be able to identify where these
Sea
people come from,
peoples.
but it's not for sure.
They blame the sea peoples. And I might have skipped the part, but I can't show the whole thing. If you watch it, they blamed the sea peoples. They didn't blame the economies. They didn't blame the slavery. They didn't blame the system that always collapsed.
By a long shot. And in fact, the original people talking about this weren't sure if they, as I said, came from there or if they went there. All right, and that has not been decided either. What has been decided is that they said the sea peoples were responsible for the collapse. 1207, 1177, that was the answer. Gaston Maspero, a French Egyptologist, had already put this theory, it was a theory, actually it was a hypothesis, in about 1850. By 1901, it was solidified. And so every time an archaeologist excavated a site that was destroyed, they said, see, it's the sea peoples. The problem is, of course, that's backwards. That's not what you do. So I actually think that this is not the right answer, even though there are some interesting parts to it. So for instance, here's your sea peoples again, the Philistines, and we do have Philistine remains in the region that is now Israel, also Lebanon, also Syria. This is degenerate Mycenaean pottery. It looks like somebody from Greece came over, made it, but the clay that they're using is from Cyprus or Rhodes or the Levant. So it really does look like you've got Mycenaeans that join in and come on over. So there is something to the suggestion that the sea peoples were real. The Egyptians are not just making them up. But if we take a look at the inscription that he actually leaves us, what Ramses shows us, and it's kind of hard to see, but on the left you've got the actual drawing. On the top right is an artist's rendition of it, and then down bottom, a modern day parallel. What Ramses shows us is that these people that are coming, they're not like Vikings. They're not just raiding. They're bringing their families. You've got the wife, you've got the kids, you've got the belongings, you've got the ox cart. These are people moving. They're migrating. So instead of Vikings, think of the Dust Bowl from the 1930s here in America. Everybody moving from Oklahoma to California. It's that kind of thing. So the question then becomes, what could have started such a migration? Now, I also think that it's a little too simplistic to give the explanation that I was taught in graduate school. They said, oh, there was a drought, and that led to famine, and that led to the movement of the sea peoples. That led to cutting of the trade routes, and that then led to collapse because they were not self-sufficient enough. Now, on the one hand, that's a nice explanation. On the other hand, you will notice it's quite linear. You will also probably realize it's never that nice, right? It's a lot more messy. And so I think that this is not the right answer. I think it's too simple. The sea peoples are part of it, yes, but they're not the sole reason. And in fact, I think they might have been as much the victims as they were the oppressors. That is, they are one of the symptoms of this, but I don't think they're the cause. I think they are a bogeyman that's been used to scare little kids for the last couple of generations, or at least if your parents are archaeologists, it was. So, I was skeptical, shall we say, and I wanted to look around for what really happened. So what I want to present to you today is my alternate hypothesis for what caused the collapse, and then see what you think of it. Now, I remind you that we've got a globalized society for that time, for that period, with everybody in contact with everybody else, and I give you one major example. I said that this is the late Bronze Age, and actually the Bronze Age goes from 3000 to 1000 BC, give or take. And we're in that last part of it. You've got the early, middle, and late. The way you make bronze, as I put up here, is tin and copper, right? 90% copper, 10% tin. Some of you may know that if you don't have tin, you can actually use something else. Anybody know what that is? You can actually use arsenic. I don't recommend it. You won't live long, but you can make arsenical bronze. But here, most of the copper is used to make bronze at that time. The copper is not a problem. It's coming from Cyprus. In fact, that's where the word comes from, Kypros. Cyprus means copper. The tin is a little bit more problematic. possible some came from Cornwall, though I rather doubt they got up there more than once in a blue moon. There are some tin mines in southern Turkey, but not enough. The vast majority came from Afghanistan, specifically the Badakhshan region of Afghanistan. Now, anybody here have lapis lazuli jewelry? Anything like, okay, that's same area, right? Lapis and tin come from the same area of Afghanistan. So we have to get it all the way from Afghanistan over to this area. And we do know that they are doing this because we have a text from the site of Mari, which is on the Euphrates River. I'm actually not sure that Mari exists anymore because ISIS took it over and we're busy looting it, so it may be gone by now. But the Mari letters, which were found by the French in the 1920s, one of them says that tin is coming there and being sent on to Ugarit on the northern coast of Syria, and from there is being sent on to Crete. So you can see that you've got a trade route of hundreds, if not thousands of miles. If you cut it at any point, you are indeed in trouble. And in fact, a colleague of mine in England has said that for them, tin was like oil is for us, right? And that keeping the steady flow of tin is the same problem that we've got for oil. And I think that's a pretty good analogy. But bear in mind that they're also importing finished goods as well. We've got them swapping raw materials, not just tin and copper, but also gold and silver and other things. But along with the raw materials are coming the finished goods. They've got a regular trade circuit going here. So this is one of my favorite. It's another one of these Mari letters. Actually dates from just after 1800 BC. One Kaftorian weapon. Now, Kaftor is their name for Crete and the Minoans. So this is a weapon from Crete. The top and the base are covered with gold. Its top is encrusted with lapis lazuli. Now, this is not the dagger. This is from the Death Pits of Ur. But still, I thought it illustrated it nicely, a gold dagger with lapis lazuli. And I don't know about you, I want one of these. All right, I'd happily, carry it open, whatever, but but I think my absolute favorite is another letter that says, one pair of leather shoes in the Kaftorian style, so Minoan shoes, and if you've been to Crete, you know those are probably sandals, though they could be boots, which to the palace of Hammurabi, king of Babylon, and yes, that is the Hammurabi, right, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, Bakhti limb carried, but which were returned. So these sandals come all the way from Crete to Babylon. They're given to Hammurabi. He doesn't like them, and he returns them. Why? I don't know. Too small? To last millennium? At any rate, so for fun, at GW, I once had my students look at Hammurabi's law code, all 272 or 282 laws, and I said, find the penalty for returning shoes. And they came back crestfallen. They said, there is no penalty. I said, exactly. So nothing changes. That's one of the interesting things about it. So we've got this globalized society, trade, reciprocity, diplomacy. Everybody's marrying each other's daughters for gold and silver and whatnot. And then into it, you drop a little chaos, and suddenly we've got a big, big problem. And one by one, these wink out until you're only left with Egypt. Everybody else goes away. No more Mycenaeans, no more Minoans, no more Hittites, no more Cypriots, at least temporarily. Only the Egyptians survive because they win, but it's a Pyrrhic victory. They are never as strong again. That was their high point, the New Kingdom period. So,
when you say the others went away, they completely died out, or their civilization became more primitive?
They pretty much went away. The 1% is gone, and I'll come back to this, but they lose the art of writing. They lose the art of large buildings. You get a dark age, right? So Mycenaean civilization is considered to end just after 1200. Same with Minoans, same with Hittites, same with Assyrians, same with Babylonia. You will get successors, which we'll get there, with Neo in front of them, the Neo-Hittites, the Neo-Assyrians, the Neo-Babylonians. So it's not the end of the world as we know it, but it's close, okay? So what I would like to do then is to figure out, if it's not the sea peoples, then what else could have caused this? So, could it have been drought, like some have suggested? Could it have been famine? Could it have been invaders? Could it have been earthquakes? And my answer to this is yes. I actually think it's all of them, because you can survive a famine, or at least some people can. You can survive a drought. You can survive invaders. You could survive an earthquake. Yes, lots of people will die, but your civilization does not end. What if you have more than one of them then? If you have a multiplier effect, if you have what I would call a perfect storm, and that's what I think happens. So, let me quickly run through the evidence for each of those and then see what you think. So, for instance, drought. Drought's not a new suggestion. Already back in the 1960s, Rhys Carpenter, who was a professor at Bryn Mawr, was suggesting that the Mycenaeans came to an end because of drought. But he didn't have hard data. He didn't have proof for it. It was just a hypothesis. He looked at changes in population. He looked at population movements and various things, and he hypothesized that this is what caused it. But it remained just a hypothesis, and it was never proven, so people kind of forgot about it. However, in the last 5 years, we now have the data that he was looking for. So we can now bring it back scientifically. There is a guy named Kaniewski. He works out of Paris. He's got an international team. And he went to the site of Gibala in North Syria back in he was there in about 2010, published the article in 2011. And what they did was to take samples from dried up lagoons and lakes and look at the pollen that was in there. And what they found was that there is what he called a dry event, a 300-year-long dry event. The pollen showed that there was drier climatic conditions in the Mediterranean from the 12th century until the 9th century. So about 1200 BC to about 900 BC, there is this dry event, what we would call climate change. So this was the first instance. He then went over to Cyprus, did the same thing, published that in 2013, and again took samples from Halisultan Teke, which has a dried up lagoon. And here again, major environmental changes took place in the period from 1200 to 850. It turned the area into a drier landscape, and the precipitation and groundwater probably became insufficient to maintain sustainable agriculture. So, drought in North Syria, drought in Cyprus, and then Lee Drake came along, published a great article in 2012 in the Journal of Archaeological Science, in which he looked at a number of different studies that other people had done and pulled them all together, including things like there is a drop in the temperature of the surface of the sea in the Aegean, which would lead to less rainfall. And he concluded also that there was a drought that started somewhere after 1250 BC. Right? And I like this article so much, I did something I don't usually do. I wanted to send him an email saying that it was a great article. I did a search for him. He was somewhere like at Northern Arizona University, and I typed in Lee Drake and into Google, and it said, the very first thing it said is, you are friends on Facebook. Serious?
Small world. Not gonna get into that. So a lot of things cause collapse of civilizations. I love the fact you had climate change for a minute there, only because I'm gonna leave it at that. Civilizations always collapse. There's a couple comments I want to mention. I'm trying not to interrupt him too much, but we'll see what happens. Hang on, let's go over your comments. Right, the effect, not the cause. Right. So Jonathan, when Jonathan said the effect, not the cause, what went through my mind is that there are a lot of effects that cause civilizations collapse, but usually the cause is we don't adapt. We don't make any changes. We don't fix the systemic problems that bring about the collapses, whether it's climate change, whether it's disease, whether it's famine, drought, kings, lords, lies, false flags, whatever it is, we never adapt. We never modify our behavior to ensure that that never happens again. If someone had to ask me, Jonathan, the cause of civilization's collapse, I would answer ignorance. I would answer ignorance. If it were back in the day when we had picks and hoes and all we could do was live like, agrarian society type people, there'd be a lot of other things. Today, in a highly advanced civilization with endless amounts of data and information, automatable software, sustainable solutions, all the things we actually could deploy to prevent the collapse of civilization, I'd say that it's ignorance. Ignorance is the reason why civilizations collapse. Empires collapse from within while pointing at a fall guy. And that say, ooh, come on, Dan. And that's, when you say empire, you just said the collapse from within. Empires always collapse from within. The great thing about blaming the fall guy is that you don't actually have to make any changes. You could just say, hey, it was the sea, what do they call it, sea people? It was just, hey, we didn't do it. It was the cuckoo virus. It's organic, it's because y'all don't have immune systems outside of the fact that we poison the air, the food, and the water, and we subsidize it with your tax dollars that you work hard for. So there's nothing to change. There's nothing to update. We need to build a new normal and build another society based in the same ignorant, unsustainable means of enslaving the human race where y'all don't own anything, you work hard, and we never use technology to live in a sustainable society. The lords will do that. The owners just dictate the orders, right? So, a couple other things. Ivana said something. Kind of like Middle Eastern migrants now possibly going to collapse European civilization as we know it. And so that, Ivana, ties in with what somebody said above. And the comment rolled off. I think I pinned it. Someone else above said, ooh, no. It ties in with what Jonathan said, the way I was thinking about it when you typed it. That people are leaving not only Africa, the Middle East, Sahara Desert area, around the Congo, Lake Chad, Honduras, Guatemala, Venezuela. People are fleeing areas, Mexico, where we have sustainable ignorance. And not only fleeing because of climate change, that governments have geoengineering devices and tools that they keep top secret, obviously because they're using, and nobody wants to ask the question, well, why is it top secret? You're not using it and the climates are changing. People are migrating because where they live, it's not sustainable. And so the same way the sea people came and did attack some of those civilizations back then, they were migrating because you can't stay where you can't stay. Right? And instead of looking at everybody as cousins and using the automation and resources, what we have to share and look out for our cousins, we fight them. We build walls. We act like it's their problem and it's their fault that, that something bad is happening in their country. And if you're in the United States, we usually, we did it. We did it. That's right here. 90% of all human migration ain't got nothing to do with climate change. Got to do with where Urkel at. Right there. Did I do that? Yes, we did that. We did that, and we lived wealthy on it. Once again, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and we can go into all the other stuff. And I might do a review. I was going through the old pictures, like all the topics we talked about for the past couple of years, and I was going to do like a review. This is what we went through, and how that still applies to the ignorance of today. So yeah, we did that, but we caused them to migrate because we destroyed them. And somebody posted, who was that? Paul? Talking about the Vikings. The Vikings migrated all over. They didn't just pillage and kill. That's ignorant, right? So I think he was replying to somebody else. But so the whole point is that why did the Vikings migrate? They ran out of land. They ran out of land. Now, and the funny thing, Paul, is I was always taught in school the Vikings were just evil. Right? They were criminals and they were evil and they were vicious and violent. Even the women fought. Oh, they were just a horrible Klingon-like, killing society, warrior society. They weren't in the beginning. They were a farming society. They ran out of land. They needed land. Nobody wanted to share. What do? The same thing the Bloods and the Crips do. Same thing kids who join these skinheads and white nationalists do. You will survive. You will do whatever you have to survive. If you live it, it's a part of human DNA is survival. They're gonna survive. And so the Vikings are no different than people coming here from Honduras. The only different about people coming here from Honduras is they come here in peace. You know, they come here because we blew up their country for the war on drugs, for cocaine, the CIA set up. And we just said, no, you can't come here. We blew up your country, we destroyed your company, but you still can't come here. But they come in peace. They just come to pick some strawberries, come here to grow some tomatoes. They're coming here looking for peace, bringing their family, and we give them war, which is why, again, I'm not on any sides of any of the politics in America. It's all ignorant. It's all ignorant, and it all defies every single one of the 10 commandments that I'm supposed to be following. It defies pretty much everything that you know, Christ being my teacher, which is what I told my brother this morning. Christ is my teacher. That's why I can't really affiliate with Christians right now, because Christians don't believe in the teachings of Christ. And they're attached to political systems, which are all dark, vibrating, evil, demonic nonsense. Sin. Systematic sin. Ooh. Oh, I said that I think I said that yesterday to my other brother. You know what he said to me? He said, you know, why the glass got to be that way? Why can't the glass be half full? You know, he's a Democrat. So why can't the glass be half full? I'm always getting a hard time with Obama and the rest of that. I said, you know, oh gosh, if I can't find the meme, it's gonna take too long. I said, well, you know, the glass, it's not that the glass is full or half full or half full or half empty. That's P, man. That's P. That's P. Y'all see the meme? Y'all remember that meme? Where the guy's sitting there and it's like half full and it's yellow. One guy's like, no, the glass is half empty. No, the glass is half full. And it's like, no, that's sin. That's P. That breaks, it's systematic sin. It's systematic evil. It's systematic abuse, systematic darkness, prison industrial complex, military industrial complex, police state empire, which will eventually always collapse. It is literally ignorance rolled up into a ball, and they're asking you to pick half this side or half that side, and it all ends the same way. Another collapse, another reset, and the fish gods got to come back from Middle Earth, the ocean, space, heaven, wherever they're at, and then bring that bag and restart civilization. And at what point in time do we get tired of this? At what point in time do we, okay, you know, we get it. We keep resetting because we're ignorant. We believe in our birth indoctrinations, and that actually is always what holds this cycle in a sustainable way. Howdy, Citizen Deb. I've been looking away from YouTube. Hola, oh, hey, Violet Lotus. How you doing this morning? Gerard, please move to D Live. YouTube and Facebook are over for free thinkers. Well, that's a discussion, by Lotus. That's a discussion. I haven't decided to do that yet. Well, that's not true. That's a lie, by Lotus. I decided to do that about 12 times. It never worked. It never worked. By Lotus, I try. Where my mind is at right now. Like, I support everybody that's moving off. It's what you should do, especially with what your body's telling you to do, your consciousness. I'm not in that space. I'm not in that space anymore. I think that there are times when you fight toe to toe with those that are opposing you. Like all the whole technological industry is in bed with the state. Like somebody said, who was this? It was on Corbett. Violet Lotus. I was listening to Corbett. He was talking about digital book burning, right? Like that's it. Oh, it's awesome. There's a website for it too. They talk about how censoring is book burning, right? Deleting information online and censoring people, you are literally deleting human history. It is a crime against humanity that you would ever delete any comment, text, post, ever, right? It's a crime. It is a book burning. You are changing history by doing that. And these organizations are heavy into doing that. But in that talk, there was a statement made that all IT, all big tech companies, they're all in bed with the state because they're supposed to be, and they always will. Like the tools of the state that are created within the state will always support the state. So it's all the tools. It's not just Facebook, YouTube, it's DLive, it's all the rest of them. Because at the end of the day, Facebook isn't the problem. YouTube isn't the problem. It is the system that's the problem. And some people want to avoid them, some people don't. I don't think that is my approach at this point in time. I don't see where that is going to help. I think the people that we need to talk to are right here. That's where I'm at. The people, and I mention my brothers all the time, and I love them to death. They crazy as hell. I love them to death. But the people we need to talk to are here. And as long as those people are talking, I'll be here. Right? White Lotus, when those people stop talking and it's time for them to become little Nazis and go get the state to report me to, have me thrown in a prison cage, when it's their time to act like slave catchers. But oppressed people who try to convince me their entire life they're being oppressed, become the oppressor, then it's time for me to leave. At that point, there is no more talking, right? At that point, it's a fight. Well, I don't think we're at that point yet. So yes, I'm not on that boat just yet. There's no man worth his salt in mob culture. Reclaim the scapegoat or be lost in fake Israel. And love is not pretending. Absolutely, Sita. I'm actually just trying to look here to see if the caption recorded that word that you just typed in a special way. Because that's how you know you're talking. Nope, it didn't work. Good. Learning software, good. Your voice to text sucks. That's important. I think that's scapegoat or be lost and good. Yep, it came up the same way you typed it, so we're good. Gotta trick the software. Gotta know how all this works. Gotta trick the software. Know how it works. Loves lapis lazuli. Yes, I do too, Christine. That was my first crystal. Europe was created by migrants from Middle East and Asia. Yes, it was. Everything was created by everything, Paul, right? People from America, they weren't here first, right? They come here like, they say, the Europeans aren't from America. No, they're not from North America. The Africans aren't either. No, they're not. And the Canadians aren't either. No, they came from France and a few other places, right? And the Italians, Spanish came from Spain, but by the same token, the Native Americans weren't from here either, right? The mound builders came first. Then you had that Younger Dryas event that killed all of them, and then the Comanche. Like everybody is a colonizer. I guess you weren't here. We had a talk. We were talking about everybody is a colonizer. All you need is significant power over your neighbor. And in a world based in conflict, they'll utilize that to kill you. And the Comanches did that, right? The Comanches were known. What was the statistic on the Comanches? They could shoot 1 arrow per second. And the only reason why the West was won is because they made the single bolt action revolvers or something like that. And the Comanche, they just come, because the Comanche got the horse from the Spanish. And they just began to colonize all of North America. And they couldn't stop them. 20 Comanches come over the hill and it's like, that's automatic rapid fire. You can't defend it. But everybody's a colonizer, nobody's from anywhere. And what people do is they'll take the technology, if they get a significant jump on you, and they will take it to kill you. Which is why we have to raise the next generations to be more and more free and support more and more freedom in each other.
Seriously? So I wrote to him, I said, Lee, I guess we're friends on Facebook. Anyway, region from about 1225 to 1175. There's about a 50-year period of what looked like earthquake damage. So for example, here's Mycenae, right? Capital of the Mycenaeans in Greece.
Whether or
the
not
famous
earthquakes
Lion Gate right here. But look off to the side here. Underneath the big Cyclopean wall, right here you've got that kind of a slope there. Anybody recognize what that is? Because the geologists and seismologists looked at it and just started laughing. That's one side of a slip zone. That's part of an active fault. And they said the Mycenaeans built their capital city, or one of their capital ones, right on top of an active fault line. Who does that? Who builds a major city on top of an active fault? And then Amos Knorr from Stanford said, well, I'm from San Francisco. Yeah, yes.
On that image, has that moved, since?
It has moved. There have been numerous earthquakes, and yes, it has. Right. But it's not just at Mycenae, it's elsewhere as well. But when I went looking for evidence, because Amos Knorr and I worked together on this, we found evidence of earthquake victims at many sites. So for instance, this young woman, it's the same skeleton in both pictures. This stone right there was embedded in her skull when she was first excavated. She had actually sheltered in a doorway, which is supposed to be the safest place. In this case, the doorway collapsed and killed her. All right, so that's at Mycenae. just about 10 kilometers away at Tiryns, there's another set, a woman and a child lying underneath a fallen wall. If you go across to Troy on the northwestern coast of Turkey, trust me, that wall is not supposed to look like that, right? I was there about a year ago, took the same picture right there. Troy 6 is probably one of the cities of the Trojan War. It fits perfectly. It's 1250 BC, but it's destroyed by an earthquake. Same thing back at Ugarit, but this is a little bit earlier. This is a wall from about 1365. Ugarit seems to be hit by a number of earthquakes. But again, trust me, that wall was not supposed to look like that. That's what happens after an earthquake. So I think some of the destruction,
all these calamities that come,
other names
are all a part of it. There's more evidence. Civilizations all under the earth, under the water.
You could survive one. You could probably even survive two.
I'm out of sync.
Maybe even 3 at the same time if you're pushing it. But 4 or 5, you're like, all right, I give up, I'm dead. All right, so I think what we've got then is a domino situation, because they are so interlinked that when one goes down, it influences the other. So especially if the Cypriots went down, that affects the copper supply for everybody. The Hittites go down, the Mycenaeans go down, and then I think we've got this, kind of like a multiplier effect going on here. But I also think that we've got other things going on as well. So for instance, what we're really talking about here is the systems collapse. Literally the whole system collapses. Now this is a known situation. It's happened elsewhere as well. In fact, Colin Renfrew, a very famous British archaeologist, back in 1979, defined systems collapse. He says, it's when your central administration collapses, it's when your traditional elite disappear, your centralized economy collapses, and you get lots of settlement shifts and population decline. And that's exactly what we see here. So what we've got is a systems collapse. But we've also got then to take into account a systems collapse doesn't just happen in 1 year. And that's actually why the title of my book is misleading, and I fought the publisher for the entire time I was writing it, because I said 1177 is not the year when it collapses, it takes a century. And so he says, well, what would you rather? I said, 1200 is very different from 1100, which is totally different from 1000. And he says, well, that's correct, but that's a terrible title, and it won't fit on the book. And I said, okay. So the way I see it is 1177 is shorthand. Just as we say that 476 is when the Roman Empire collapsed, which is, of course, not true, right? It took most of the 5th century AD, and even then, the Eastern Roman Empire keeps going for another 1,000 years, and still we say Rome collapsed in 476, or at least that's what we tell the kids in 6th grade. 1177 for me is the same thing. It's a hallmark, it's a bench, right? I know it didn't happen that year, but that's a good way to refer to it. So shorthand, if you will. And the thing is, when you have such a systems collapse, there's usually there's no smoking gun. And in fact, on Amazon, that's one of the major complaints from the people that have bought the book. They said, he didn't give us the answer. And I said, actually, I did. The answer is there's no answer. We're not sure yet. They're like, well, where's the smoking gun? I said, we don't have it yet.
Because there is no answer. And there doesn't need to be an answer other than ignorance. There's no answer. There's no one thing. There are multiple things. When systems collapse, multiple things fail. But then the question that comes to mind when I watch this is, can a sustainable system collapse? Think about that for a minute. Can a sustainable system do something unsustainable and collapse? This is why I stand still on the ground that it's ignorance that collapses the empires. Systems that are sustainable don't collapse because you build into them fail-safes to make them sustainable. When you have a human life that is based on eating fresh human food without toxins subsidized by governments not saving grandma, The body must make backup methods to keep the system from dying, called the immune system, white blood cells, right? And when that fails, the white blood cells, the memory T cells, and how they destroy cells, you got something else. You got the cytotoxic T cell. See, the reason that you're alive and human beings, Americans especially, live to be 70 years old, eating jelly donuts and Twinkies and all the damn things that's on TV, been being poisoned slowly by their kings and lords called government, is because the human body is mostly a sustainable system. It's not completely. There are certain tolerances that will finally break it. But sustainable systems don't collapse. This is why the left, deep left, needs to stop fighting with the deep right, because they're the only ones that make moonshine. Doesn't nobody else know how to. If Bobo, if you make some moonshine, I don't know if I'm gonna drink that. But I'll Jethro, damn it, he can make some moonshine after we say no to the new normal. No, but we're not gonna let you do the new normal, because what you did before was stupid. And what they did before them was dumb. And what they did before them was dumb. You keep building systems based in control and power and force and domination and abuse and central banking and all the other ignorant things that empirists want to build, which is always empire. You're always coming up with a new version of slavery. We need a paradigm shift, which is why it is a good thing everything is collapsing. Push it harder. If they want you to put out the fire with kerosene. Get some gasoline. Petroline JP4 or JP5. Let the system burn. No, we would not be taking in your new normal, because you don't know how to build a sustainable system. The only sustainable system that will ever exist on Earth is human sovereignty. Okay. So, no, I just wanted to interject that real quick. I think you've got a few more minutes and we're done.
So in the paperback version, I've got a new afterword that came out when it came out about a year later, in which I say something like no smoking gun or something like that. But the other thing, though, is that when you have a dark age, which always follows a systems collapse, you will then have romantic stories about the past, right? And so think of Homer and the Trojan War. You've got exactly this. So I think that's what we've got here as well.
Ooh. That made me think what Jonathan said. Romantic stories about the past, right? This whole hiding the darkness and not talking about things that are dark, because you don't want to hear them. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to make that face. I'm being silly. And that's the only way the past is romantic, isn't it? Because they convince you that, well, they hide the darkness, and all you look at is the things that you like to see, the things that are nice and giddy and pretty and whatever, so you can look back and you can romanticize in the past how great things were, knowing that things in the past are just like today. There is no good and bad. There's no light and dark. There's always shades and spectrums. There is no North was fighting for or stop slavery and the South trying to stop it, trying to keep slavery. No, there's always a mixture of different colors. History is never as sexy as what they want it to seem, which is why the Vatican has all those texts, miles and miles and miles of scriptures that your church isn't even allowed to read, that you can't even read, that you believe a faith is fake. The same way the government hides information from you to build a fake society, obviously the Vatican and fish God hats is hiding scriptures that are significant to your faith. That's why I don't do religion. That's why I do spirituality. Why? Because people who withhold information want power. People who withhold knowledge want power. They want power over you. They're lying to you. That's the only reason they hide information, because they want to control you. They can't control you if you actually know what's true. That's why history is so important. If you don't know about the Enuma Elish, if you don't know about the Emerald Tablets, if you don't know about the Sumerian tablets, if you don't know about all the other places, the Book of the Dead, all the other places scripture from the Bibles appear, then you will keep saying things like the Bible is the Word of God. And that will be your belief system given to you by kings. And that way they can get you to defy everything that Christ taught. Love thy neighbor, instead of blow up thy neighbor and traffic guns and drugs through your neighbor with the war on drugs.
In terms of our takeaway, what lessons can we learn? Is there a lesson for this, for us today? I think the answer is yes. So for instance, are we facing a situation that is similar today?
Are we?
Is there climate change? Well, we could argue all night about that, right?
No, it's
but
not an
let's say
argument.
for argument, yes, at least some. Are there famines and droughts in the world today?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, of course.
Not an argument.
Earthquakes? Yes.
Yeah.
Rebel-
Hang on. I'm going to try something, see if this works. As he goes down this list, do we have technology to prevent these things from bringing about a collapse? Climate change? No, can't stop climate change. Not here. Not here. The climate is going to change no matter what you monkeys want to do with it. And eventually, the sun is going to engulf the earth and make it all lava again. So you're never going to stop the changing of this planet. Anything that stays on this planet will eventually die. Do we have technology to protect the human race from climate change? Yep, we can leave. And we can stop all the 120 some technology that they had 60 years ago, which the list is probably 300 or more now, that they actually modified the weather with. So we know we have the technology to protect the human race from climate change, so that would not collapse us. Famines and droughts. Do we have technology to stop famines and droughts? Hell yes, we do. We just don't deploy them for people. Why? Because it's beneficial to have Afghanistan in a drought and a famine while we're fighting wars to steal their minerals, right? Real talk, real talk. I like solutions. I do solutions. Things get dark, but we have to do something with the information once we have it. Earthquakes. Can we protect the human race from earthquakes? Hell yeah, we can. We know when they happen. We get warnings before they happen. Other nations have that data. You've got the seismometers all over the earth and at the bottom of the ocean. Like tsunamis, we can predict that ahead of time. We just don't invest in that. How many people died when that big tsunami came and flooded that island out there? Not too far from India. All them people died. Like 120,000 people died. More than the cuckoo virus, which got 210. So how come we didn't make any change? They stopped the whole earth with 9,210 deaths. They didn't do anything about the 120. We know that you can put sensors all over this planet to know when these things are coming and warn everybody on every single beach to make sure that nobody dies, because who would want their cousin to die? But we don't deploy technology that way. We don't deploy resources that way. We blow people up and we steal their resources. We do not put sirens and sensors and warnings in automated systems on beaches and seismometers all over the planet to make sure people don't die from water or earthquakes. We can protect everybody. Can we build earthquake structures? Of course we can. We know that 80% of the world's population still live in earthen houses that don't fall down when the earth gets to shaking. We know that. We can build cob houses. The cob house that they built out there in California, the last test that I saw, I think it withstood an earthquake like 7 point something on the Richter scale, whatever it was. And the human house, the ones that they collect, that they make, that the 8 home builders in the United States that build 70% of the homes, all of them collapse at like earthquake level 5 or whatever that is. So of course we can protect human life from earthquakes. We can stop collapses coming from earthquakes. We just choose not to because we're stupid. Ignorance is the reason why all civilizations fall. Rebellions, of course you can stop rebellions. We resolved, behavioral scientists and neuroscientists already solved all this. You know that when people have what they need, they have land, they have food, you got automated food systems, you got automated house building systems. When they have the things that they need, they don't invade their neighbors. They don't go fight for kings. Nobody wants to go fight for anybody when they got coochie at home. Okay, listen, 2 cents. Hey, nobody need to go out and cause any drama when dang at the house and is taking care of business. Nobody is leaving the farm. Nobody is leaving utopia-ish to go fight and possibly die for kings when they have abundance at home. All right, we know this to be true. This is a fact. Kings starve the population in order to get them to go to war. The reason why America is being collapsed and brought to their knees with the rest of the NATO nations is they need slaves for war. And they want to depopulate. And they want to give you a new normal. So of course we can stop rebellions. You take away the things people rebel for. People want peace and freedom, be left alone, right? Live their own lives, human lives, not careers and jobs and enslaving them to be forced labor slaves in tax plantations for the few, and because they raise their kids to want to do that. So of course you can stop rebellions. It's like you could stop all war. Nobody goes fights for kids. Nobody goes out for steak when they got a cow at home. Okay. I think that's how that saying goes.
Rebellions? Yes.
We already solved all
I think
these
the
problems.
only thing that's missing are sea peoples.
And sea people is violence. We know that the same reason people leave the Congo because of climate change, people don't leave Nevada. I've been to Nevada. It's people every damn way. Given to Arizona. It's hot, it's dry, ain't no water. Parts of California that damn way. They don't leave those places. Why? Because they got water. They have wells. They have technology to prevent them from having to leave places we created technology to live in 1,000 years ago.
And in fact,
Civilization, let me finish. Civilizations collapse because somebody wants them to collapse. Period.
too. Because I think on the one hand, ISIS, or the Sea People, is busy destroying everything. But on the other hand, the refugees that are fleeing Syria could also be the Sea People. So you've got both sides. So I actually think we've got pretty much the same situation. So in the last couple of years, the headlines coming out of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, Greece's economy's tanked, right? This should all be familiar since about 2012. Internal rebellions in Libya, Egypt, and Syria with outsiders and foreign warriors, right? The Arab Spring. Turkey fears it's going to become involved. Israel's afraid it will be involved. Jordan's crowded with refugees. Iran is bellicose and threatening, pretty much as usual. Iraq is in turmoil, right? These are all ripped from the headlines in the last, 3-4 years?
And they're all artificial conflicts that don't have to exist. The only reason they exist because somebody wants them to. Very powerful people, and we know that we can feed those people. We just choose not to.
We looked at news from the Middle East in about 1200 BC.
There are no hard problems in the world. That's why I call the news old. It's all old and it's all bullshizzle. It is all bullshizzle because we have belief systems at birth, our birth bigotry. We believe this to be true instead of actually looking at the details and the facts and the technology of the time to determine how to solve problems for people. We're not problem solvers. You don't elect problem solvers. You elect problem causers because the billionaires and the trillionaire families that own this world need conflict to increasingly control larger and larger swaths of the planet. All fake conflicts, all of them.
Yeah, pretty much the same. So my question now is, does knowing this help us?
It should. It should. He started off, and I think I skipped over, you should watch the whole lecture, but in 1177, he made the point that the news back then is the same news now. It's bullshizzle. The only difference is back then they had less technology and more excuses to be ignorant. Today, we don't have one damn excuse to continue in this ignorant voting, consenting to this nonsense.
Well, from my point of view, I look back. Many of you probably look forward. So can we use this, knowing what happened to them 3,200 years ago, and knowing we may have some of the same symptoms, what do we do about it? Or we just say, it's history, it never repeats itself. I think maybe it does. Different actors. Thank you.
All right. Beautiful lecture, beautiful lecture. I will post it so you guys can watch the entire thing. Eric Cline, PhD, and his book is called 1177. All right, I'm gonna do comments, and we'll see where that takes us. Barbara Peters, Red, they are all on edge. Came on sudden for sure. Okay, Barbara, I don't know, they must be commenting someone else. Won't be that easy knowing UK and people are protesting big time. And it's a good thing people are protesting, Christine. I'm not against protesting. I just don't do it. I don't do it here because it doesn't make sense here in the format and the flavors and the narratives that people are protesting in. If people actually protest here for human sovereignty, I'd be with them in some form or fashion. I'm not sure standing in the street does any good. However, it does get a message out. So, it's a good thing that the world is rising up. But will we rise up on the right things is always my question. We have to be measurable impacts on climate since the advent of militant 10,000 years ago. Agriculture primary as AM advent exponential increase in decaying biomass. We have had measurable impacts. We have Beaufort, and this is true talk, real talk. We are climate changers. We are literal climate change. Beaufort, I'm glad that you said that. Outside of the flavor of anus cakes and memes and stuff. I'm sorry, I can't get that out of my head. I keep seeing that damn cupcake. We are climate changers. We are literal climate changers. You reminded me of a video we did a while back where we said, I know it sounds kind of schizophrenic when I say we, but that's okay, just go with it. We're all schizophrenic in our own little special ways. We changed the climate of our house. Right? So in order to live somewhere, we destroy ecosystems. We kill everything that's there. We rip out the soil. We put in clay to build an unsustainable house that will fall down in an earthquake, wind, snow, instead of putting a sustainable house made of cob or adobe or something that doesn't burn like hemp. We build ignorant, unsustainable houses, they collapse. But we destroy the ecosystem. We destroy the climate for the bacteria. We destroy the climate for the birds. We destroy the woods. We knock down the trees. The bees don't have any place to eat. The pollinators are starving because we keep the grass under 7 inches. We literally collapse every civilization for ignorance. Absolutely, we have an effect on the climate. There's no question about that. All of us are climate changers. The question is, are we changing on a home personal level, but we demand government does on a global level? Those are some good questions. We are climate change. We've always done that. Knowledge is power. Absolutely Christ. That's why they hide all the knowledge from the people and they raise ignorant people. Good morning, Anita. Hey, Diane. Average person has no survival skills. Yep, Diane. And the correct question is why? Why are people so weak? Why can't people survive? Well, because you had a chance to be a brownie. You didn't want to be a brownie. You had a chance to be a Cub Scout, Boy Scout. No, but people are made ignorant. People have been removed from the land. I think there are a lot of reasons, Diane, but the main reason is they need ignorant people. The 0.01% that owns this world need ignorant people. They need people who raise kids to fit in. They don't want people who just crazy insane times because they believe in things like being sustainable and having skills to survive on a planet where there's always something trying to kill you. That's why we have no survival skills because, and by we, I mean y'all. I don't mean me. I need to clarify that. Why I'm privileged enough that I was a Boy Scout. I'm privileged enough that I've always, for the most part, always had some land. A few times in my life, I've lived in some apartments, didn't have any land, didn't grow any food. I've always had land. I've always had survival skills. Know how to start a fire. I know how to do just enough foraging so I'll barely starve. I have no idea, but the mushrooms are not on that diet. I lived in many places and I still got all the keys from the places I lived, Diane, which is a crazy thing I was thinking about yesterday. I still got all the keys from every car I've ever driven. And I was thinking about it, which is fun. It was fun. I was looking at those keys and I was just like, why do I still have these keys? And I still got the keys from every single car I've ever driven. And it's the crazy thing, but it's just the world we live in. We live in a world where we're okay with the few keeping knowledge from everybody else. And that's got to stop. At some point in time, we have to finally say that enough is enough, and we won't let the powerful few who absolutely don't care about the masses continue to create a new normal. We need the left to stop fighting with the right because we need to say no to the new normal. Now let's slide over here to the Corbett report real quick. LBRY.
Big tech exists to serve the establishment.
Oh, no, he's messing up.
Big tech exists to serve the establishment and those who are in power. And LBRY does not. LBRY exists to serve the people.
You're
listening to the Corbett Report.
This is Corbett.
Hello, friends. James Corbett here, CorbettReport.com, in a rare late-night interview. At least late night for me here in Japan. It's early morning for my guest on the other side of the date line. And as you will know, I have recently been talking about the metaphor of the digital Library of Alexandria, the internet, being on fire, i.e. books burning in the Library of Alexandria, because people are setting them on fire because they want them to go away. Of course, I'm referring to the censorship issue that we see popping up on so many social media platforms, Google/YouTube being perhaps foremost among them. And so you will cast your mind back just a couple of years ago. I did a wildly unpopular series about social media alternatives, looking at some different platforms that people can be exploring while they're trying to figure out how to evade these social media monopolies. One of the platforms that we did not explore in that series was LBRY, which is available at LBRY, LBRY.com, LBRY.tv, Odyssey.com. I'm not sure. Let's find out with the CEO of LBRY himself, Jeremy Kaufman. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, James. And yeah, if you want to just get started, if you want to just watch some videos and enjoy an alternate experience, go to odyssey.com, ODYSEE.com. But LBRY, LBRY, is the technology behind Odyssey. And LBRY, it's named LBRY, very much as a reaction, in that spirit of Library of Alexandria, of wanting to keep information alive and permanent and discoverable. I'm a child of the internet. I kind of grew up there. The internet taught me an incredible amount of things, and it can teach you a lot of things that you might not find when sources are more sort of controlled and locked down than your schools and other places. And I think our modern internet has become much more in that vein. It exists a lot. Big tech exists to serve the establishment and those who are in power, and LBRY does not. LBRY exists to serve the people.
Yeah, and
we get into how.
Here's the thing that I find hopeful about LBRY and about some of the other alternatives that are coming up is that the internet is what we make it. And we do not have to make it into a place where we all congregate at the same 3 or 4 websites that are centrally controlled and other people's servers. We can make it completely different than that. This internet is decentralized and peer-to-peer. Why don't we use it that way? So, on that note, let's talk about LBRY. And I'll just, as a little teaser for our conversation, so we will talk about the actual burning of LBRY by the Google Play Store and its subsequent resurrection from the fire like a phoenix, but that's coming up later in the conversation. But before we get there, I do want to talk about LBRY itself. First of all, where did the idea come from? Why did you want to do this? And then we'll start to get into the tech of how it actually functions.
Yeah, well, so as I started to talk about, I've always loved decentralized technology. I've always loved the kinds of things, weird and interesting, cool things you can find on the internet. And so unsurprisingly, I'm the kind of person who started getting into Bitcoin when Bitcoin came out. And I'm also a nerd. I have a computer science degree. I've been in tech for a long time. And so Bitcoin is the kind of thing that to a guy like me, makes me go, whoa, what's that? I got to learn about this. And I started learning about it. And to me, what a blockchain fundamentally is it's a database. There needs to be a monetary element to it to make the database work. But you can use it like a database. Sometimes I say it's the world's worst database, but it is fundamentally a database. And what we realized that we could do with the blockchain is use that to maintain a listing of what's available on a decentralized network. We could also use it to add identity, to who's publishing this, and payments. And so what we're trying to do is basically get the best of the centralized world and the best of the decentralized world. Because there are downsides to decentralization. Sometimes finding things can be hard. A lot of times the UIs and the user experiences are worse. Also, it's decentralized technology, while great, I love BitTorrent, it also struggled to achieve legitimacy, right? And so I'm a fan of BitTorrent, but I'm not a fan of the fact that it didn't really work for a lot of legitimate creators, right? And so LBRY was conceived of as trying to solve all those problems. I can actually pinpoint the moment that got me thinking about it, which is this conversation between Julian Assange and Eric Schmidt. And Assange, being Assange, publishes the whole conversation online. And I was actually at my grandfather's funeral, and I was there for several days, and I was, just wasn't really working, but I was spending time on my cell phone, reading things, and I started reading this conversation, and Assange talks about this, what if you used Bitcoin for DNS? And that got me thinking about, well, what if we used blockchain to kind of solve some of the problems with BitTorrent?
All right, so I don't know how technical to get in this conversation because we have a very generalist audience, but some very technical people in the audience as well. But let's confront this from the user perspective then.
I can make it simple.
Okay.
Yeah, I can make it simple. Right? So one, if you just want to watch things, go to Odyssey.com. This is our product that we think we can make it to the mainstream with this product. ODYSE.com. The core idea is that we have developed a publishing technology, a way of sharing digital content that has the same properties as Bitcoin. And we don't need to get into how Bitcoin works unless you want to, although I can. But it has the same properties, which is local control when you want it. Okay, when you want it. You can use Coinbase and have a nice polished experience, but if you have full control and you want to take your identity and be the only one who owns it so that no one else can mess with you, no one else can take it away from you, that's what LBRY can do.
So the data itself is stored in the blockchain, or is it just pointing via the blockchain?
It's just pointing via the blockchain, right? So basically the blockchain provides metadata, including secure identities, and payments. And so you can think of it as sort of, this is a crude word. I'd like to think we're more sophisticated than this, but we've sort of stapled, blockchain and BitTorrent together. That BitTorrent-like network is still there. The data is not on the blockchain, just a pointer to a basically fairly traditional peer-to-peer network.
And so, LBRY, as I say, it exists in these various forms, like the desktop app, but also in what was LBRY.TV. I'm assuming you're still doing that. Now you're doing Odyssey.com as well. There are different ways of accessing this. Can you talk about some of those differences?
That's right. And so I don't. That's why I've continued to say you just go to Odyssey. Is I don't want to make it too complicated for people who just kind of want that. Hey, I just want YouTube without crappy policies. Right. That's just Odyssey. So I want to emphasize, like, you don't have to get into all of this stuff if you just want that better experience. Basically, there's Odyssey. LBRY TV will continue to exist, but we are trying to get away from LBRY.TV as our sort of web brand. The desktop app is basically equivalent to a BitTorrent client. So the desktop app lets you interact totally locally. BitTorrent client or a Bitcoin client is kind of both in one. So basically, you should think of it as like Odyssey is Coinbase, right? Or YouTube. If you're the kind of person who would just use YouTube or Coinbase, go to Odyssey. If you're the kind of person who's using BitTorrent locally and using Bitcoin locally and all of these things, you might want the LBRY desktop app.
That's a good way of putting it, and I'm sure the technically inclined people will be more interested in the stats and how often does the blocks get added and all of that kind of stuff. People can go.
Yeah.
I'll include a link to the technical specifications for LBRY.
So we have an entire domain, LBRY.tech, which goes into the tech of LBRY, and there's a white paper we wrote well after the network was published, not these fake white papers, that was published to IEEE. So it's a very well-regarded and vetted technology.
All right. So that being said, you did raise the specter of people who aren't who love the ease of use and the user design of something like YouTube, but aren't in love with its content policing policies. What's LBRY's take? What are your restrictions, and how does that work?
Well, so our intent is part of our proposition is we've tied our own hands so you can trust us more. So everything we do is open source, and ultimately control over your identity and channel can be completely local. Okay. So on the desktop apps, we don't even have full control over what you're finding and watching. On any of our web properties, we are, of course, at a minimum, going to follow the law and take down any content that's available there. With the Odyssey brand specifically, we are looking to give creators an option of advertising via that platform, which may mean at some times compromising, right? I'm a free speech sort of idealist, and there will always be that way that's uncensored and unfiltered. But if we have to do things with the Odyssey brand to get advertisers, our intent with the Odyssey brand is to allow advertising for people who want it.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, I get it, because the Odyssey is kind of a portal onto this underlying technology. And if you want the portal to easy in, yeah, of course, it's going to be like YouTube and other things where, of course, you have to play certain games. But if you want the actual tech itself, you can access that.
Exactly. And the cool part is, this is kind of a nerdy point, but I get the sense that your audience is political and might be familiar with the concept, is like, there's always these exit rights. There's this ability to leave and get away from the system if the system starts to not serve you. So even if you start with Odyssey, you're not locked into Odyssey. You have a cryptocurrency wallet. You can download that wallet, take it out of our system entirely, right? And then that control is yours.
So other people could theoretically build applications that work with the LBRY blockchain that have other access routes that aren't Odyssey.
Exactly. Yes. Anyone could have done what we did with Odyssey. So when you publish to the LBRY blockchain, you're actually basically saying you're promising certain things about how if people are accessing that content in certain ways, and according to the rules of how you published it, anyone can write a client that accesses it from the network.
Yeah. All right. So it's important to note that if someone was posting something to Odyssey or whatever that was totally, you couldn't have that on your platform, so you took it off, it would be gone from Odyssey, but it wouldn't be gone from the blockchain.
That's right. That's really happening is it's being filtered. So it's being filtered from being pulled and displayed on the web client.
But the underlying data is there forever.
When we block something on Odyssey, we're not really deleting anything. We're just not letting it be seen.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think the technically inclined people and the creators in the audience will probably have their an understanding of this, and people who just want to watch videos can just go to Odyssey. But let's talk about the censorship issues that arise. And actually, I got you on today specifically because I saw an interesting story develop over the past few days, and apparently it's just been resolved. So tell people a little bit about your Odyssey with the Google Play Store.
So this will be a breaking story because we haven't even put this out on Twitter that we have now been unsuspended, but our app was basically blocked from the App Store for several days, sort of without warning and without any feedback along the entire process. And so this is what I think is definitely still messed up about it, no matter what, is we have an app. It has more than 100,000 active users, several 100,000 downloads, and no problems. It has a good rating, right? But what happens is they had these. Well, who knows? Who knows if it's Google? I mean, Google has definitely gotten aware of how many creators are coming on to LBRY. So who knows how they do things? Whether it's like just a bureaucrat making a dumb mistake, or someone being like, "Hey, find some way to mess with these guys." You don't really know. But they banned us for someone in the app found a video of non-pornographic, no explicit nudity, no toplessness, no nothing, of simulated sex in a comedy sketch, right? So it wasn't intended to be, prurient. It wasn't intended to arouse people. It was intended to be a joke. They're trying to go for the Guinness Book of World Records of like longest sex act. And it's maybe a crude comedy, but nothing that is, some of the stuff you can find on Netflix or on YouTube is way, way, way worse than this, right? And so they send us an image. It's an image with no nudity, and they said this is what you're banned from the App Store for, and that comes without warning. It's just down, right? It's not. There's no discussion. It's not like for something so mild, like even if they're saying this is now against the rules, you would think they would give you some chance to do something about it. That wasn't like a recent video. The video is a year old. We have all these users, and then it's just down. They don't even put up. It's not even like they don't even put up a page that's like this app is under investigation, right? All your links just break, right? And then of course we address it. The only way you can get these issues addressed is you start a social media storm about it, And so tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people saw that story, got a bunch of retweets, got a news article, got a couple of news articles, got shared on a bunch of social media sites. And then I come into work this morning and the page is back up. They don't tell us, right? They didn't even send us an email that's like it's been restored. It is just they just quietly flip the switch and you're back in there. And it's so I don't know how you can run businesses like this. And YouTube does the same thing with their creators. It's just drop the hammer, start a fight, maybe we fix it, and no communication. And it's just wild. I don't know.
I guess that's the arrogance that comes from being a near total monopoly and just thinking that you can act like that and expecting that people will just take it forever. Absolutely ridiculous. And I will throw a link into your video where you explain this because, as you show, it was literally just a screenshot from a comedy sketch. It was literally a comedy sketch like you'd see on Comedy Central or something, but ridiculous. And they try to frame that as if it's pornographic content or something. It does raise the question. Through the app, can you access pornographic content, conspiracy content that might be controversial, like anything that Google Play Store might have a problem with?
So there is no pornography on Odyssey. You can access adult content through some of the other clients after you're sort of strongly opting in. But they raised no issue with the ability to access pornography. And of course, you can access pornography on the official Twitter app, on the official Reddit app. There's an app called Chrome in the Play Store. Lets you access all kinds of stuff on the internet itself. And that's what we are trying to do with LBRY, by the way. Like our position with LBRY is that LBRY is a network, right? So in fact, that's even why it's LBRY as a short name is we fundamentally as a business, like we actually see LBRY as competing with other internet protocols. We want the LBRY protocol to be how people access videos and access digital content instead of BitTorrent and HTTP. And so in the same way that you can access the BitTorrent client is not required to have content filters. Your Chrome client is not your HTTP client is not required to have filters. We don't believe that the LBRY client should have to have filters either.
Right. So, I mean, this is pretty much a case study in how heavy-handed and, as you say, completely robotic and algorithmic apparently this censorship is. Totally arbitrary, no notifications, you don't get any contact with anyone, it just happens and you do some sort of appeal and it unhappens, yay. Wow, that was customer service. But also, I mean, yeah, it does sort of raise the more general warning, I mean, about permissioned, centralized places where everybody has to, abide by whatever arbitrary rules are set, and who knows, what did I do? Can I appeal this? How do I do this? It's a ridiculous system. If only we could interact with each other directly through some sort of, more direct, decentralized method. Oh, if only people would come up with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, LBRY is absolutely a reaction to these kinds of problems, and it's part of why we're growing so fast. We do not have a huge marketing team. We are not doing paid advertising, and the platform, it's just a constant slope upwards, and it's because people are fed up and they're going around and they're talking about it. And it, one of the things that's so weird about it to me is that they don't seem to consider like any kind of history. Like you would think that there's a creator, his name's, Gareth, I forget his last name. He's been on YouTube for 11 years. He had 800,000 subscribers and like thousands and thousands of guitar tutorial videos. And this guy has probably made tens of thousands of dollars for YouTube, right? Like YouTube makes, right, 50% of every advertising dollar is going into YouTube's pocket, right? And obviously they deserve something, but truthfully, like moving a video from place A to place B is not 50% of the profit hard. So they made a ton of money off this guy, and it's so cold the way they interact with him. You would think there'd be some flag that's like, yeah, this guy's like clearly done a good job. Like we should talk to him as a human instead of like just like checking the box that sends him the automated email and then making him fill out the form and then just getting a binary yes or no with no context. It's real. I don't know. It's really callous. I mean, they deal, and the way they treat you, I think, does seem that they feel like they just sort of own you and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Well, hey, I've been on YouTube for 13 years. 500,000 subscribers. Never talked to anyone at YouTube. Never heard anything from any of them. All I get is the occasional bot is telling me that, here's a copyright strike or whatever. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can I appeal
You
this?
dealt with some of this.
I can appeal it to the bot.
They demonetize you if they take down any of your videos?
Yeah, they demonetized my channel a few months ago, but the joke's on them because I never monetized. I never monetized a single video. Actually, that's not true. In order to access the custom thumbnails or whatever back in the day, you had to monetize at least one video. So I took one from way back in my archives that no one has watched in a decade, and I monetized that one so that I would never, and I never did earn a single cent from YouTube. They never earned a cent from me because it was never about monetizing it in that sense and getting that dirty Google money. That was never a viable business strategy for me, which of course does raise the specter of, well then, what is in it for the creators on LBRY? Because everybody wants to know about the monetary incentives.
Yeah, so our intent is always to basically to give people choice. So actually, let me first say, right now, through our cryptocurrency, creators are paid. So without any ads, we have a fund. We still have 80% of it retained. That's basically explicitly designed to help the network grow. And so there are some subsidies from us right now. We're not crazy. Anytime you see these people like, I earned $1,000 for writing this like 6-word article that 10 people saw, like those are always scams. So we're not promising like it's nothing crazy. It's basically about what YouTube pays you or a little bit more is what we're doing through our token. But long term, of course, we're not, if I told you that would work forever, all of your scam alarms should be going off. So we don't promise that we're going to subsidize things forever. Our intent is to continue to build out the system to one in which ultimately creators and viewers have choices. So you say you don't want to monetize, you'd say your content is free. The content would basically be served for free. If there were extremely small data fees, maybe the viewer has to watch one ad from time to time because bandwidth isn't literally free, but there would be no ability, it would be basically just the cost of moving the file, which is pretty cheap. Creators may say that creators may want to set prices for their content or have minimums that they want, including up to just, hey, it's $5, $10, $20 for this video. And in fact, there's content like that on LBRY right now. There's some Hollywood movies on LBRY. You can watch a James Franco film for $5. There's some movies from Oscilloscope Laboratories. So there's that model. And then we will also match the advertising sort of style where it's like going rate or micro priced. And in that model, the user, however, will always have a choice, which I think is very important. I think it's actually crazy to me, that we are so willing to watch ads when you think about how cheap an advertisement actually is, how little they're valuing,
I'm gonna stop there and let it go on. Or you can finish watching it. My position on Bitcoin has not changed. And advertisement has not changed. So fantastic guy doing something amazing. LBRY, LBRY, it's an app, which is now back online. Everyone's talking about shifting and moving to new platforms. Certainly prioritize moving to platforms that prioritize free speech. However, just always use a little piece of common sense, which is, at the principle, though, the state still runs everything. At any point in time, they can make LBRY the same thing that they've done to Google, right? The same thing they've done to Facebook, the same thing. And this is why I'm kind of not a whole shift platform person, because the fight has been brought. And at some point in time, they're finally backed into the enough walls where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna stop running rooms. I understand every room I run into, you're gonna back me up against a wall. People have to dig in their feet somewhere and fight. And to me, my feet are dug in, and they can delete, do whatever they want to do. I'm fine with all of that. I don't even know if I'd create a new page, but you gotta pick and choose your battles and know where you want to fight. So anyway, my position on Bitcoin is exactly the same as it is with every currency. Currency doesn't need to exist. And as long as currency doesn't need to exist, I feel like I'm not doing my experience justice, cheering for anything that's based in human labor. It's just another form of slavery. Currencies don't need to exist. Humans need to be free. That's what's important. Like, there is needs and wants. People want currency to exist, but the need is humans need to be free or violence will always come. I'm in the comments, I'm gonna get running. Hey Cindy, good morning. Yo, brother Joseph Workers is in the house. Brother Joseph and I will be doing videos soon. We might even do a video a week. So if you guys don't follow Joseph Workers, follow Joseph Workers. We started to talk about the political narcissistic election nonsense, sociopathic stuff. And they deleted the video. Or they delete the video, they just shut it off. I don't have time for it. Like, I'm not I'm trying to be less of a narcissist. I don't want to be more on this whole patriarchal nonsense, sociopathic idea that I'm stronger, which means I get to abuse you. It needs to go away. And that's what politics is. Politics is you thinking you're right because you believe in the patriarchal system, that there's more of us, so we get to use a police state, cages, and death to force you to live like us. I'm trying to narcissist less. I'm trying to sociopath less, so this is why I have no interest in the election system or politics at all. It needs to go away. It was just government is a form of feudalism to maintain a colony, and the kings just fade into the background. The kings and lords have always been there. Banks, billionaires, those who own industries, and they give you a illusion that you have a say in land that they claim they own, driving cars they claim they own, living in houses they claim they own, on land that they will take back anytime they want, and you pay taxes on, so they own. All right, we have to find that human sovereignty. So yeah, no, I'm not interested in I'm not in Bitcoin. I mean, it might be a step somewhere else, But I've seen too much in the engineering space where we don't need to step anywhere else. We can just say no. We can grow food for everybody. We can 3D print what everybody needs, and we can print houses, and we can put people back on the land. People take care of people better than governments do. Bottom line, right? I'm not an ism person. It's just closer to what it really is, energy. Life is about energy, and life is about where you put your energy, Genie, and I'm no longer interested in putting my energy into people who claim power and authority over me, who are all involved in human trafficking. Like somebody said that to me the other day. Good conversation we got. They said, all the leadership, they're all in on it. They're all in on it, all of them. I'm not going to mention any names. If you are a powerful person, you're in on it. There's no saviors in leadership anywhere. They are all involved in the system. They believe in power, they believe in money, and those with the most money and the most power own all of them. And the only ones in power who are popular, who defy them, will be killed if they're not already. They will not make any progress. This is a step for the human race to take. People have to make changes and steps in their own lives. That's how you reclaim the world. You will never do it with a political system. So anyway, they delete the video. So I think, yeah, Janie, blockchain is cute, Bitcoin is cute, all that stuff is cute for people who want to keep the system. But like I started out singing, we're at the end of the road. You know, we have come to the end of the road, boys to men. And some people are trying to keep it, others are trying to bear the paradigm shift because they feel the next generation, these children, actually need more freedom. They need to be, they'll never be free, but they need to be a hell of a lot more free than they are today. All right, at some point, the big techs are destroying themselves. They are, Christine, which is what they're supposed to do, right? A system is a system. A government is just a system. It believes in power. It will take all the power the people give it, which is why Europe's going for another second lockdown, and so will America. I don't think that's going to go the way they want it to go. That's all I'm going to say. I think that you can push all you want. You can believe in cuckoo viruses all you want. I don't think it's going to go the way you want it to go. There are a lot more woke people out there, waking people, than the TV's letting you know. And if you're still out there worried about a cuckoo virus, you need to get up to speed. You got to get up to speed with what's going on really in the world. So yeah, but big tech companies destroy this stuff. They're supposed to. They're companies. They believe in money. That is the whole purpose they exist. Their system is to make money. They will make money till they burn up the entire earth. Corporations can't exist anymore. Now we know at the principal level that no, they have no means of self-sustaining, right? They make a product and they will do anything they can to beat their competitors. It is a race to death. Like the human race, like nations, like politics, like all the rest of it. If you are working with a system that has no sense of itself, it has a siloed approach because it makes a product, it will destroy everything else to make that product. So we got to stop letting infinite growth systems destroy the planet. Greed and power. Nothing can exist for solely those purposes. Government and corporations. And now they're in bed together, so it's an oligarchy. My tongue is bleeding from biting it plumb off about tech folk we have around here. What are they saying, Jeannie? Big Tree, yep, is coming soon. Big Tree's on today. Hopefully you guys support him and please share him. Once again, he's WikiLeaks for medical professionals. And Julian Assange, that's another thing. Julian Assange, their hearings every day, or I guess his trial is on. None of the news is covering it except for Redacted Tonight. So we do need, if someone's got a good source of following what's happening with Julian Assange, please send it to me. We need to follow that, not on the basis that Julian Assange is a hero, but based on the fact that he stood up for a principle, which the human race has a right to all information in all domains. If governments serve the people, governments can't have no secret from the people. The secrets they have means that they do not serve the people. Currency takes the same dissonance. It does, Christine. That's why I like that scripture. It's easier for a rich man it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for the wealthy to inherit the kingdom of heaven. There is no place for man-isms in heaven. There is no place. You can't take none of it with you. It's here to confuse you. It's here to take your energy. It's here to give you a life of being enslaved to it. The more money you make, the more problems you have, because the more money you make, the more energy it takes. The more your spirituality, it decays and rots you from the inside as you get into these conflicts of craftiness of men, psychopathy, colluding with systems that are based in eviscerating every single one of the 10 commandments or whatever your religion's principles are. Money and power and things have nothing to do with spirituality. When you're willing to give it all up, then you're getting somewhere. As long as you're willing to hold on to it and keep it, makes no sense. Makes no sense to me. That's what they all billionaires are psychopathic demons, and I'm not backing down from that position. So many people to assist in our genuine concern for the world. There are so many people, Jennifer, and they're everywhere, literally everywhere. I like the name LBRY. It's a good name, Patricia, and I like how he started out on the Library of Alexandria. Everything is a book burning, a bit burning, and it needs to stop. It's a human rights violation to delete anything from the internet. Why? Because it's human history, and they're literally deleting it. We purchase our property, pay taxes on it while we maintain it, but they could steal it back. What a system. Yep, Diane, and people like it. And they cheer for it, and they want to keep it. They literally stole the land from somebody else, who stole the land from somebody else, who stole the land from somebody else, who stole the land from, who stole the land from somebody else, who stole the land from somebody else, and they make you pay for it. They're thieves, and we're involved in criminal activity paying for it. Nobody should pay for land. You're born on this planet, you deserve an ecosystem like every other creature. It is psychopathic to deny children an ecosystem, the land that they need to survive. We're the only species that does that. Europeans are fed up with the circus. They are, Ivana, and so are people here. That's why I'm saying if they try it again, I think they're going to have an unpleasant surprise. The scientists and military and government seems to demand control of humans. The military is one of the biggest problems. They test all the tech items without scrutiny. Ooh, yes. This is why we need to talk, brother. To the damage of humans are not accountable. Exactly, Joe. And we started talking about that the other day. What is the lady's name? I keep forgetting. She wrote the book about DARPA, Area 51, the deep state. It's not going to come to me. But so, the whole point was the people who are making this technology no longer even agree with it. They don't want to make it anymore. The scientists in DARPA are saying we shouldn't be making any of this anymore because we have a mission statement that's based in the Cold War, and they have technologies now where just a very few people can destroy everything. We can't build a world where we've got Lex Luthors with the ability for a few to wipe out the masses. That under no circumstances does that work out good for anybody, especially when they're pedophiles, especially when they're human traffickers and they still believe in violence and war to solve problems. John Pilsner and Elizabeth Voss always know what's going on with Assange. And that's good, Patricia. We have literally, I'd love it if we could talk about Assange on a daily basis. If someone follows what's happening in the Assange trial and passes me updates, I will mention it every single day. Yep, either eminent domain or just burn you out. And that's how it works, Patricia. You will leave. And both sides agree with it. This is why I don't know why anyone's doing the political system, Patricia Hauser. Both sides agree with king control. Both sides agree with it. The left wrote the NDAA that gave eminent domain over everything in your house, and the right stands up for eminent domain when it came to stealing land, put down pipelines. They all believe in being controlled and ruled by kings, just because they hate each other. Let's say it right. They don't believe in being slaves and commodities to billionaires and trillionaire corporations. They just don't see that all the sides are contrived. All the sides have a narrative which the king created both sides of every single argument. It's all based in a new flavor of slavery. All right, about to get down, got to get out. Get down. It's time to go. This is, let me do YouTube. There was something on YouTube. It was caused by a medication prescribed to me. Something happened. What's going on? She and my son bought a house nearby to Morgantown since she worked in the hospital there. We're having a conversation I am not following, but I'm always going to wrap it up. Brother Pat Riley, free the people. And that's the whole purpose. The only time that I take time from this to do this, because I got to put a radio in my stolen mineral car. I gotta say it right. But why am I wasting time driving around in an old car? Shoot, I've been driving around with a radio without a radio since I had it. So I had to get the radio in, but I gotta stop and pause because freeing the human race is more important than me having tunes in the car and lectures in the car. I'm gonna put that in later today. But we had to do this because the most important thing is the next generation is free. It's more important than anything I got to do. Any more important than anything anybody's got to do. The next generation has to be free. And the only way that works is we raise children to not fit in. You raise children to be children. Somebody said something a minute ago. Who was that? Jeannie, right? And then you were talking about your kids. You said they're both artists and young adults. I always wonder what if they just let him paint. What if, Jeannie? What if? What if we just let kids be kids? What if we just let humans be humans? What if we just let children be children instead of burning down cities and joining Bloods and Crips and Black Lives Matter and White Lives Matter and skinheads and white? What if we just let kids be kids? What if we just gave them the world that they deserve? What if we let them paint? What if we let them make music? What if we let them play Tinker Toys? The world wouldn't end. But if we keep playing, indoctrinate them, make them fit in, send them to preschool to get an education, to get degrees, to pay back debts that they never occurred, and never own land, never own a car, never own anything that they actually purchased, the world is going to come to an end, as it should. If we don't ever evolve and discover sentient consciousness or any sense of ourselves, then I'm fine with the fall of the world. But civilizations will always continue to fall until we realize they all fall for one simple reason. You might have saw the asteroid, you might have saw the famine, you might have saw the disease, you might have saw the cuckoo virus, you might have saw the invader, but they all collapsed from ignorance. So anyway, this is Gerard, gotta get going. His name again was Eric Cline. Please read his book 11/7 at Eric Cline. Free the people. I am out of here.
Break the chains that bind me, 'cause I wanna break the chains that bind you. Do you wanna set the world free, have perfect harmony? We open up the doors, well, what do you want? Free the people, do you wanna free, bum, bum, free the people and Mother Nature too. Close down all the zoos. Do you wanna boom, 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 boom? Do you wanna boom, 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 boom? Do you wanna free, free, free?